So, for our next speaker, you might know her from her famous work, the Aryavata Chronicles, which is a modern retelling of the Mahabharata. And the series also has a prequel called The Cowherd Prince, which talks about the origin story of Govinda, which is an incredible read. She's also written a wonderful full length collection of poetry called Objects of Affection, which describe human emotions and perspectives from inanimate objects' point of view. And this book was actually something our team read together virtually, and we were all completely floored by how amazing this book has been written. So, although we know her as Krishna Udaya Shankar, she likes to respond to Khaleesi, mother of Huskies. So, we are extremely honored to have you with us here today. Thank you so much for being here. We're so happy to have you here with us.
Pleasure, Shweta. Hello and vanakkam, everybody. Lovely to be here. Thank you for having me.
Yeah. So, hi, I'm Shweta. I'm part of Novel Nation team, and you will be you would have spoken to Andrea as well, who has been contacting you.
Hey,
So,
Andrea.
So thank you so much for being here. We can get straight into the questions. We actually have some really fun questions.
Oh,
So, yeah. So
that sounds very exciting.
as I mentioned, so we loved reading Objects of Affection. We actually read it virtually together, and we were all just like completely
Oh,
mind
thank you.
blown. And so we want to know, how did you come up with the concept of Objects of Affection, and why did you choose those objects? Do you have any particular reason?
Um, I actually can't remember why I chose the particular objects I did. I think initially, okay, see, there's a little bit of history behind this. Huh? Allow me 2 minutes.
Yes, yes.
When I wanted to be a writer as a child, and apparently when I was 3 years old, I used to say I'll be astronaut or writer, and I'm pretty sure I don't know what either of those words meant at that age. But அப்புறம் போக போக then you kind of give up on it. You study, you get a job, you sort of go along with life. And then finally, at some point I was having a quarter life crisis, midlife crisis, as they call it. And I was like, what have I done with my life? I have to start writing. At that point, I thought I'd be a poet. And at that point, I was still living in Singapore. So there was this wonderful community, and there was this one particular poet who agreed to mentor me. He read my work and he took one look at it and he says, "Why don't you write a novel instead?" And I think that was his polite way of saying, "Dayav say the poetry pakam varada." So stay away from it and save us all. Please don't write poetry. So that happened, and then I wrote the Aryavata Chronicles, and I wrote a couple of other books. And but this thing always remained, ki cha, uppadi soltare. We have to write poetry someday. Na. So then one random day, I think you know I was in a supermarket, and this is one of the poems, that supermarket, the trolley,
Yeah,
if you've
yeah,
read it.
yeah.
And I actually saw that happen. And my immediate reaction was, it's like, it's a supermarket, and this husband, wife, child are having this very, this fight, and it's a kind of private moment, but I just happened to be shopping there. I moved away because I was feeling very embarrassed, like I had intruded on a private moment. But at the same time, I kept thinking, ki, what what is the story behind this? And how do you even tell that story without impolitely intruding into someone's life? Then as I was putting the cart back is when it occurred to me, what if the shopping cart had been the witness, and the cart knew the whole story.
Hmm.
And yeah, so then I wrote that one, and I remember sent it to my mentor. His name is Dr. Alvin Pang. He's probably not watching this, but never mind. And then it became almost like a challenge trip. Didn't I get an SMS saying pen? And I'd write something on a pen. Then it would, this thing. We did a few of those, and then suddenly I realized that you put all these together, there is a larger story here. So then I sat down and wrote it from front to back as a story, filling it in and trying to think of not just random people and random objects, but the same people and different objects viewing their lives. So it was actually one of the most fun things I've written. Not easy, but very, very much fun. And I'm so glad your team liked it.
Yes, yes. We because we went through the contents and we were like door, and we were like door. What's the perspective? And then we were like mind blown. We're like, this is something we could have never thought of. That's something completely new to us. So thank you for writing that.
Thank you for reading it.
Yeah. So I also read Cowherd Prince, and I found that style of writing, like you mentioned, to be completely different from Objects of Affection. But do you think there's a connect to you personally between these two extremes in writing?
That's a very good question. Give me a moment. I have to think about it. I would say yes, yes, because I think what I've learned over the years is that good writing can also be simple writing. And one thing about writing poetry is that it teaches you to get to the point very quickly, but still do it in a way that is elegant with words. So it's like you're not trying to compromise the story mukema words mukema. You try and balance both. And I think that is something that personally means a lot to me because I love reading. And I love reading one well written sentence. It's like it comes and it hits you, and you're like, oh my God, how did they write that? So that feeling is very, very important to me. And I think what I keep trying is to create a feeling like that for a reader. I get nowhere near it, but I keep trying. So I think that is what is common between the poetry and the fiction.
Cowherd Prince. Okay. So when it comes to the Aryavata Chronicles, why the Mahabharata? Because I've read a lot of story retelling. So why did you choose Mahabharata in particular?
See, I think the reason why you have so many of these retellings is probably also the reason why I did it, because we are at that time and place, both as individuals and in terms of what is going on in the country, that you cannot take the past as it is handed down and it's told you. It's like, I mean, I grew up in a household where these stories were like daily party kata சொல்லி தூங்க வைப்பாங்க. But the problem was, as you which is very nice as a child, but as you grow older, I also got told stuff like, இந்த மாதிரி பண்ணோம், இந்த மாதிரி பண்ணக்கூடாது. And when you ask why, a lot of these things are given as reference, saying because அந்த காலத்துல இப்படி சொன்னா, பெரியவா அப்படி சொன்னா, you know like அவளுக்கு தெரியாது இல்லையா, kind of all these things would kept getting thrown at me. So I think when I started writing, this is it's a see, writing is a very selfish business, huh? Nobody writes out of a greater this thing. All writers are very, very selfish because we write what we want to write for whatever personal reasons we have. And we're just lucky that there are people who are kind enough to read. So from that, it was a very perspective. It's a very personal reason that I was like, இது அப்படிதான் இருந்திருக்கணுமா? Because what I was told it's not just about what the past was. The connection is that it is being used today to tell me how my present and future should be. And so my point is, if you are going to define my present and future, then I need to go back and redefine this past in a way that is acceptable. Or I at least need to ask questions. I don't have answers, but at least need to ask questions. And I think, any writer who's writing in this space is doing that at some level. There is something that we see that, this legacy that has come to us is not something we're comfortable with. And so we want to go back and question it. And yeah, I think that's long answer to your short question. Sorry.
No, that's a very great answer, and that makes sense because, like you said, I guess in all of our households, that's how it is. It's like that's how it was then. This is how it has to be now. Thank you so much for that. Yeah. So, what is your earliest memory related to books, or like your most fondest memory with a book as a kid?
As a kid, many. I think earliest memory is Amar Chitakatha, Misha. There used to be these Misha books. And of course, my parents, of course, may be being very nice to me and when they tell these stories. But apparently, by the time I was 1.5, I used to at least look at all the pictures and I used to be able to make up stories around the pictures.
Okay.
So I think the first books I remember were Amar Chitrakathas and Mishas. My fondest memory, and this still happens when I go to Amma's house and pull off one of my old books off the shelf. I love to eat and read at the same time.
Okay.
So, really, if you open a book which is like some 20, 30 years old, you will find, I don't know, one sliver of semia from Upma, one green spot from, I don't know, some sambar rasam that has dropped. So all my books will have food stains on them.
That is so cute. Okay, thank you.
It's cute. It's
Yeah,
cute. No, I'll tell my mom it's cute.
yeah, you should. Okay. So, do you think that someone can be a writer if they don't feel emotions strongly?
I think this is actually very relevant to a discussion I've been having with my husband for the past couple of days. And I think not feeling an emotion is an emotion in itself.
Okay.
And there's a very thin line between what we call thought and emotion. And it also depends on what you feel strongly about. Sometimes you may be feeling it, but it comes to you as thoughts. Like, I like to think of myself as a very non-emotional writer. I'm always like, what's the connection? What is the plot? Is this making sense? Is this making sense? But I think somewhere when you start talking about what is important to you, you're doing it because there is emotion. So if you're a writer, if you're a writer, then your emotion's already there. It's part of the ingredient mix.
Okay.
So yeah.
Okay. Okay. It's good. Um, so, when you wrote about the retelling of the Mahabharata, so what do you think are the ethics behind rewriting or retelling stories with historical figures that, people are looked up to?
Hmm. Um, I think that answer has changed for me over time. Um, Earlier, I think I've gone between the extremes of saying either one should be cautious or what the hell, be rebellious.
Okay.
I think now I realize that as a writer, my true commitment or my true ethical duty is towards the story. It's not necessarily towards what are people going to say about this. And if the story I'm telling makes sense, if I have put enough sensitivity into that story, if I've put enough research into that story, if I've asked myself, you know, could this really have happened? And then I write it, then I could be 100% wrong, but I'm still ethically okay.
Okay. Okay.
Because we don't know what is right and wrong. We don't know today. I mean, what we know today, we may not have known 100 years ago. What we knew 100 years ago, we don't know today. So, future suddenly some archaeological excavation, and then you're like, you have all the evidence, or you have zilch evidence which tells you that it was completely different. We don't know. We are dealing with what we have now.
Yeah.
And my concern is with the impact of how we understand that on our lives, everyday lives.
Yeah, it's a good way to look at it. Um, what is your favorite genre of books?
Science fiction and fantasy.
Awesome. Mine too. Yay.
Yay! Yay! Who's your favorite? Let's ask you a couple of questions.
Oh no. I don't know. So when you ask me who's my favorite, I'm like blank now, and I'm like,
That's okay. It happens. Too many favorites to name,
yeah,
I
that
think.
also, yes.
I understand.
Okay. What do you think about books being made into movies?
Stages. I always used to be like, oh my God, they should never make movies out of books. They'll just mess it up. Then, of course, somebody said, hey, I would like to make a movie out of your book. And then you look at it and say, oh, wow, maybe this isn't such a bad idea. So, but no, see, all the fiction I've written so far has been optioned.
Okay.
And that has given me a chance to talk to people, talk to producers, talk to creative people. And one thing I have come to realize is that, this when you talk about a movie, the book is the starting of the creative process. There are so many people who are going to get involved after that, whether it's a set designer, costume designer, director, dialogue writer, whoever. And as a creative professional, the way I would want my work to be respected, I have to learn to step back and say, hey, I respect your work.
Correct.
So it may not be my exact vision, but that's fine. It's a team's vision now.
Okay.
And you have to learn to realize that, you're not the only one. Yes, it's as a writer, you feel very strongly about your characters and books. But once you've made that decision, okay, now this is now a team's property in that sense, you have to learn to play like a team player.
Okay. Yeah, that's a
Of course, I'll still scream in private if they do things I don't like, but that's in private.
Okay, so imagine Cowherd Prince has been made into a movie.
Hmm.
And would it bother you that if people who came to read the book after the movie were already influenced or biased with different mindsets when they came back to read the book?
Um, okay, I can't answer for sure because when this happens, I might change my mind.
Okay.
But as I'm thinking now, I would say no. See, because I believe, see, a writer's job is 50%, or maybe even less. The reader has to put in the other 50, 60,
Mm.
70% when they're reading that book and bringing it to life. It's like basically you're
Yeah.
running a movie in your head when you're reading a book.
Yeah.
At least
Yeah.
that's how it feels to me, right? So now, இப்போ உங்க மூவிக்கும் நீங்க பார்த்த மூவிக்கும் difference இருந்தா, how much of that is my concern? I'm not sure.
Okay.
I'm not saying I'm not concerned. I'm just saying that anyway, no reader reads a book exactly the way the writer intends.
Mm.
There is so much richness that comes in from the reader, how they visualize. Like or a line I can describe something, but the way I visualize that line and you visualize that line might be very different.
Yeah.
And there's no right or wrong here. You are a creator too because you've given that just words an image in your head, and that creativity has to be respected. So, when we talk about books to movies, we're actually talking about three people's creativities or
Yeah.
creative visions being compared at the very least.
Yeah.
So that's very complicated.
Okay, so do you think that maybe a movie would tend to narrow down someone's imagination than if they were allowed to kind of envision something on their own? Like you said, creative people look at it creatively on their own. And if
Hmm.
I was already given images from a movie, do you think that would reduce the way my mind worked or the imagination that I would have had?
It's possible. Uh, and I'm speaking from my experience as reader and movie watcher here, not as a writer. It's also possible that the other way around works, that you really liked what you saw, and that sort of becomes your reference image as you read the book.
Hmm. Okay.
So it's how do I give you? It's like I watched the Witcher series before I started reading the books,
Okay.
and now whenever I read the books, it's like in my mind it's always Henry Cavill playing the role,
Yeah.
which is like very nice.
Yes.
So that way I don't have it's worked out. I think that's a very individual thing of whether it works out or not.
Okay. Can you tell us about your next book?
My next book is a co-authored book because I'm actually trying to write crime fiction,
Okay.
and it's because I mean I like the writing, but I think there's a part of me that very very much enjoys the escape of fantasy and science fiction. So having to move away from that has needed the help of a co-author, and in this case, a very lovable but difficult co-author, my husband, who's also a writer. And we've been trying to work on this book together for 5 years, and now we've finished, and it's been contracted to Penguin, and we haven't killed each other yet. We haven't left each other yet, so I think we're okay.
Okay, that sounds exciting. Um, we have a little rapid fire session that Andrea would be handling now. So, Andrea, over to you.
Okay, bring it on, Andrea, and thanks, Shweta.
So, your favorite book, if you had to pick one.
Only one, Calvin and Hobbes.
Okay, favorite movie?
Oh my god, this is tough. This is really, really tough. There are too many superhero movies, man. Which one do I pick? Okay, The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly.
Favorite color?
Black.
Have you bought a book just for the cover?
Oh, have I bought a book for? I'm sure I have, except that I can't remember. Yes, I have.
Okay.
I have.
So, what is the most spontaneous thing that you've ever done?
Okay, that's not meant for polite public disclosure. Okay, Like teenage Disney என்ன பண்ணிருக்கேன்ப்பா விட்டுடுங்க ஃப்ரீயா விடுங்க.
Okay, we'll beep that out.
Favorite food?
வத்த குழம்பு.
Okay, dogs or cats?
Dogs.
Okay.
I mean, all animals are fine. If you say dogs, cats, or humans, I'll say dogs and cats.
Okay.
All animals are fine, but since my babies are dogs, I like my books, I'll say dogs.
Okay. Your spirit animal?
A dog, a Siberian husky to be precise.
What's for dinner tonight?
Chole and puri.
Okay. The last song you played?
Vati coming.
Your favorite snack?
Pani puri.
Okay. Have pets gotten in your way of writing?
Oh, never. They write the books and I just put my name on the cover now.
Okay. So if you could live in a classic, which one would it be?
Lord of the Rings.
Okay. Yeah.
Thank you. That was fun.
So if we could suggest an inanimate object to you right now, could you tell us like a 2-line perspective story from the object's perspective?
Okay, I'll try.
Okay, headphones.
I'm just gonna type this in and then read it out because I think better when I type, if you don't mind.
Yes, no problem.
Okay, reading it out. She thinks I do not hear and do not speak. Her words, my heart. The rest is all silence. I don't know how that is just.
Oh my god.
Drafts are always sucky.
No, that's really nice. Wow. Okay. So Anya, do you have anything that you want to ask?
So we had few questions from the audience before. What is the first book that actually made you cry?
White Fang. Jack London.
What is your favorite underappreciated novel?
Hang on, I'm just looking at my shelf. Favorite underappreciated novel. I think at a global scale, I would have to say Ponniyin Selvan.
Okay. Have you watched Marley and Me?
No, I refuse to. People keep giving me that book as a gift, and I'm like, thank you very much, and then it just goes into some corner and I give it away. I don't want to read about it, please. I know what happens at the end.
Okay, awesome. Yeah, I think that's about it, and we do have a little memento for you as well. Andrea,
Oh, thank you.
it's if you can
Oh, wow, that is so cool. May I ask who the artist is? He or she deserves.
Shweta, actually.
Oh my god. People, everyone watching this is like amazing. This is just that's amazing, Shweta. Thank you. I can't tell you how much this means.
Yay, thank you so much.
What talent.
Thank you. And yeah, I think we're done with our time also. Thank you so much for being here. I had so much fun. I was actually very nervous because first session and this was so much fun. But thank you so much.
I'm glad I had fun too. Thank you so much for inviting me, and wish the LitFest every success and wish all the other sessions go great.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you so much.
Bye.
Bharat, you can announce the winners for another contest now.
Yeah, thank you. That was a wonderful session. I really enjoyed it. Thank you, ma'am. So we have a giveaway that we were running on Instagram. So one of the book was Cowherd Prince by Krishna Udeshankar. So the winner is Instagram user @NotSoSharif. So congratulations, NotSoSharif. So we'll be contacting you via Instagram and we'll be sending you the book as soon as possible. And thank you everyone for participating. So there are other giveaways we'll be announcing soon. So please hold on to it and all the very best luck for you guys.
Thank you, Bharat. So we will have our next speaker, Mr. N. Chokan, and he will be joining shortly. Bharat, has he joined?
We are waiting for him.
Okay.